Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Brothers of Legacy. I am your host with the mostest, Anthony A.D. Walker, and I appreciate you guys rocking and hanging and doing all those things and all that and then some. So today we are kind of continuing our conversation, which in a roundabout way was about the 13% of African Americans in the country. And thank you, my podcast people, for rocking with us as well. If you don't know, we go live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So you can check us out live as well. I appreciate you listening and supporting our podcast as well, because that means a lot. Make sure you rate and review wherever you're at. So, my people, I appreciate you guys rocking with me today here and my replay viewers watching afterwards. Make sure you share. Sharing is caring. Make sure you tag. If that's in Facebook land, tag somebody. Definitely, I appreciate that. So we're going to have an amazing show. We got a couple of folks coming through. Just as a programming note, we are kind of in the process of shifting a little bit. We will now be broadcasting a lot under the Legacy Walker Network. So when you hear that name, you won't get confused. Pulling all of the shows that we are a part of into one space. But the Legacy Walker Network, just to let you know. So when you begin to see it more, you know what we are talking about. What else? I think that's it. And if you have not joined our text community, if you've joined, you're already a part, but just changing it up a little bit. Join our text community, text Legacy Walk to 84576. Text Legacy Walk, WALK, to 84576. Be a part of that community. That's it as far as that goes. But yeah, so, and 13%, if you think of us as African Americans, ADOS, and if you heard the word ADOS is African descendants of slaves, just so you know, just so you're up on the lingo, because when I first heard it, I'm like, what the heck is ADOS? Getting educated about that is definitely good, because then you have an understanding of what the arguments are as far as between ADOS and other blacks that are in the country as well. And generally that's those from other places and other countries, and that they feel haven't descended from slaves in this country. All right, bringing my man on, Jay Hamilton in the building.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. Can't complain. Let's see. Hey, what's up, Lisa? Thank you for rocking with us. Shed, awesome. Appreciate you. Thank you for always being here. So let's see. All right. So today, like I said, we're talking about our 13%. I want to, before we close out, get an update on the Derek. I can't ever remember his last name. Chauvin.
Chauvin.
Okay. Chauvin. Okay. I mean, his name matters, but it doesn't really matter. What's up, Keita? What's up, Keita? Good morning. Good morning. So they are in, if I'm not mistaken, they're in closing arguments now. Am I correct?
Well, I have to check. So I'll say this. I've been doing kind of a media blitz on what had happened ever since Friday.
Okay.
And then, as you know, there was another unarmed black person shot by police. Yes. So I've kind of shifted attention to that situation going on with Deontay Wright. But what I'll say is this. I mean, we've seen some unprecedented things in the Derek Chauvin case up to this point. One is the fact that there were so many officers who were testifying against a fellow police officer, because the blue wall of silence is real.
Yes.
And the fact that not just officers, but the chief of police actually testified against Derek Chauvin. So that's major.
Yeah.
We've seen umpteen camera angles and hours of footage. Apparently, there was cameras on the street lights, cameras on officers' body cams, cameras and cell phones, cameras everywhere who documented everything. So, I mean, this is, I'll say this, right? Yes. I know every Black person watching this trial has an uneasiness growing in the pit of their stomach. And you should, right? Because racism is always at the table. Yes. It's always going to be at the table. Yeah. But as far as the law is concerned, I have never seen a murder case with so much evidence against someone. Right. That I mean, to me, it's like, one, if you don't believe the video, you don't believe your own eyes, then you should be a Blue Lives Matter person who believes the officer. Right. So if you're not going to believe the officer, then you got to be a science person, a CSI person, and believe.
Right. Because he broke it down as well. Yeah, I saw that part.
Or the pulmonologist. Right. If you're not going to be that, then you have to be somebody who believes in people, and you're going to believe the 9-year-old that was testifying on what she saw Officer Chauvin doing. Right. If you're not going to believe that, you're going to believe all the other people that they tried to paint as being angry because they're Black. Right. If you're not going to believe that, you're going to believe the EMT workers who were like, he wouldn't even get his knee off the guy's neck while he was there. So to me, I feel like if you still are undecided at this point about whether or not Derek Chauvin committed an act of murder on George Floyd, that ain't got nothing to do with law. That ain't got nothing to do with facts. It's got nothing to do with evidence. This is you personally feeling like an officer should never be held accountable for taking the life of an unarmed Black person. Right. And the problem for us as a people in this country is that we don't get to see who's on the jury, but I can guarantee there's at least one person who don't look like us on that jury.
That's true. That is true.
So we'll see.
I'm gonna keep it real. I could not. I honestly was not covering or watching this at all. I mean, I started following you commentating, and then I started seeing pieces of the trial. I was like, okay, look, it looks like it's going the right. I think I'm a keeper after Trayvon Martin. I was done. And, I watched all of them I watched them since OJ. I've watched all the trials. And after Trayvon Martin and the way that district attorney, lost, but didn't seem like she really lost. And I was like, I'm done. This is just going to make me angry. This is just like, they just keep getting on. And, going back, Trayvon Martin, he wasn't a cop, but it's the same kind of situation. And just like, how'd he get off? What's up, Cole? Good morning, my brother. Oh, so, yeah, so I couldn't, I was like, because me and my wife were talking, I was like, I can't do it again. I can't go through this roller coaster of all this evidence, next to just him saying, I kill him,
I totally understand. But see, this is the thing where there's two parts to this. So one, I've been trying to do the commentary and just little summaries on Facebook, because I don't want Black people having to watch this. I'm watching this through a lens of somebody who has practiced in court and who sees this on a daily basis and can give you something, but also who is a Black man before all of that and who understands how these things work. But the second part to this is I want people to understand that we want to believe at least that society has improved. We want to believe that society has changed. And every day that I see Derek Chauvin in the court, he's doodling on a notepad, no care in the world. He's on trial allegedly for his life. So any brother that's on the murder case, you pull a hair out, you like, oh shoot. This dude, he cool as a cucumber. He cool. And I'm like, why is he comfortable? He's like, because he knows the track record of officers getting convicted is very low. Right? So he's like, I'm going to ride this thing out. I'm a police officer. I'm white. Let's see what happens. Right? So the same thing that we're concerned about and what we're uneasy about is what he is embracing. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll see.
We'll see. We're gonna. I guess we're probably gonna.
What's going on, Dwayne? How you doing, man?
Good, sir.
We're gonna dig into that and our effect of the 13% of us in this country. This is kind of like my theme this week. Yesterday, it kind of was a theme. It just went into the cancel culture of our 13%. But today we're gonna discuss, law enforcement, the case. Unfortunately, another incident that has happened. I do want to get Dwayne who looks like he's invisible. He's just the head. To discuss something, one of the excuses one of the cops made for shooting my man, saying they picked the wrong gun, and it's clear like that there's a big difference between a taser and a gun. They showed it. So we're gonna dig into all that. Let me kick this intro off, and we're gonna have a great show. Hang tight, guys.
I didn't want to catch that. Good morning. Welcome to another episode. Good morning, everybody.
This episode is brought to you by StreamYard. Whether you're trying to up your production or just go live, StreamYard is the place to be. Go to bit.ly/StreamYard BOL. All right.
I like that.
You like that? Yeah, I'm trying to do a little something, trying to get a little revenue coming through. Let's see.
Pimping.
What's up, Ashley? Good morning. Cole, I thought I was reaching for my taser and said, right, how irresponsible any police officer. So let me ask, let's just go and jump into it. So Dwayne, in the heat of a moment, because then a sheriff did the same thing some months back, right? Shot another, I guess, suspect with a older guy. Mm. And the way they were kind of pictured, trying to frame it on the news was like, yeah, he was older. He's been in the force for 100 years, like he made a mistake, grabbing his pistol instead of a taser. So what is the possibility of those kind of mistakes happening? And I know it's the heat, you're kind of tense. So give us the real on it. Like,
okay, so a couple things. By any chance, you guys know I know Minneapolis. I know in Minnesota, the city. Was it an urban area, rural area?
I think it was. I'm not gonna say a rural area, but it wasn't Minneapolis. It was outside of Minneapolis.
Outside.
Okay. So first of all, I guess I'll say this. Let me crush some stuff first. Number one, you never put lethal and non-lethal on the same side of your utility belt. Okay. So that's gun taser, that's gun pepper spray. They're generally on opposite sides, and they're on opposite sides for a reason. The first reason is you want to know where all your stuff is. So these type mistakes don't happen.
Right.
If I'm reaching for my gun,
thanks, Cole.
I'm always reaching on. If I'm a righty, it's on my right side.
Right.
If you're a lefty, it's on your left side. Guess what's never on the? Normally, I've never seen it. Guess what's never on the same side as your gun?
What's that?
Pepper spray, your taser. For this reason, exactly. Number two, muscle memory.
Okay.
Muscle memory is a beast. I don't know about anybody else, but I know how my gun feel. I know my gun in my hand.
Right.
Now, me and my wife had this discussion last night, and I said, this is what I told my wife. I was like, baby, I don't know. I'm not buying mistake. Mistake just don't sound right to me.
Right.
And then when I found out she'd been on the force for 26 years, I think.
Oh, wow.
It lends to a maybe, and then, but probably not. Okay, so here's the maybe. If you've been on 26 years, generally speaking, you probably got a little bit of rank. You're probably doing something where you don't get a lot of interaction. Okay. And you've hit that slump where you just got a uniform and a badge and they paying you until you retire.
You just ride it out. I got you.
That's why I asked whether it's a rural area or urban area, because this type thing happens in small towns all the time where you don't get the updated training, you don't do what you're supposed to do to stay within. So yeah, and then number three, in order to carry a taser, you got to be tased.
Okay.
And I promise you, once you feel those 50,000 volts pulsating through your body and you can't move anything, you tend to remember where that came from. So it's hard. It's extremely hard for me to think that this was accidental,
right,
or a mistake. If this was a mistake, it came from one place, and still, is not the right answer. Fear. If you're that fearful, if fear drives you to make that mistake,
right,
then, honey, maybe 21 years ago, you should have stopped doing this job.
right.
So although I sympathize for any police officer that has to do this job, especially in this environment, I can't too much. It's too much going on. The consequences of their actions are way too consequential. Not only to other police officers, but to neighborhoods in general for rogue officers or unprepared or untrained or mentally unfit officers to be patrolling the streets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have some more unrest going on in Minneapolis because of another incident. And Cole mentioned it was Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. I'm guessing it must maybe not that far from the city, because it just seems like they just ramped up. It's like, what's going on? What's happening? So let me ask another police question. So because I've noticed it more. It seemed like I've seen more video of officers kind of on the neck, and we're talking about the Derek chauvinistic trial going on. So more on the neck is a move. It's a technique, kind of like used to be the chokehold. It is. So on the neck is a technique. Am I correct? Because I've seen a couple videos.
See, this is the difference between Georgia and Minnesota.
Okay.
Minnesota was one of the few states that still allowed any type of chokeholds.
Okay.
In Georgia, it was never okay for us to choke anybody.
Gotcha.
If I choked you, I better have the same justification of pulling my gun as an officer in Georgia.
Okay.
If I can't justify pulling my gun, then so that's a Minnesota thing that kind of varies from state to state.
Okay.
Oh, and to Sean's Rowland point, wouldn't a gun weigh more? Absolutely. I don't know if she had a Glock 19 or a Glock 23 or a Glock 40, but at any rate, it's going to weigh more, and it's going to feel different than the X26 Taser.
Right. So Cole said Brooklyn Park is about 12 miles northwest. Yeah, so that is close. That is really close. So wouldn't you say, Jay, I guess want to be, we always talk about what's solutions, what are solutions? I guess banning sitting on somebody's neck should be like one part of the solution,
Man.
Well, like I always think, because even in New York, that was like a huge problem, the chokehold, because that's what that was their go-to. And many of our brothers and sisters have lost their lives to the chokehold, obviously. So I'm like banning a certain move kind of helps. I mean, we always, getting shot is kind of whole another struggle, but at least a certain move position can at least eliminate unnecessary death. Wouldn't you say?
I mean, this is the problem, right? So right now, Minnesota is looking like Mississippi of the 1950s, right? We were in the midst of a trial. Everybody know the Derek Chauvin trial is going on. So to kill an unarmed black person at this point it feels flagrant to me. On top of that, we have to talk about there was it Jamar Crawford that got killed a few years before George Floyd, right? We got Philando Castile. Like Minnesota is jumping, and I feel like it's right for the community to be upset. As far as moves to ban, I mean, I think what we have seen now is they're going to find another way to kill you, right? So with George Floyd, even the officers who are testifying in the Derek Chauvin trial are saying we weren't taught that, right? Like we didn't do this. This is a deviation from everything that we were taught, particularly because he was handcuffed already. Right. So it wasn't a matter of like we're trying to get him to stop resisting and get him in the car. It was he's handcuffed on the ground. Right. So even the defense is trying to find a way to argue around this concept of a knee on the neck. They've said the knee was actually on the shoulder and it was a leveraging position to keep him from turning over, all kinds of things, despite the fact that 9 eyewitnesses the cameras from every angle. We didn't see all that. Like his knee was on the shoulder for probably 30 seconds, right? But the rest of that 9 minutes, we know where the knee was at. So I don't know to say that banning it does anything. And then the other part from a legal perspective is what happens to the average citizen if the officer says, okay, I understand that's the rule, but I'm not going to follow it, right? Because then what's your options? You still either got to get an expensive attorney to go file a federal suit for your constitutional rights. Most people in our community aren't going to be able to do that, right? Or you got to hope that internal affairs is going to do something more than read it and laugh, right? So, you know, it's a lot. And I feel like the big thing about this case and the reason why you haven't seen those other officers who were involved with Derek Chauvin yet is because everything hinges on what happens with Derek Chauvin. If he's found not guilty, then they shouldn't plea. Like there's nothing they should do. Because they're like, if he had video evidence and all this stuff and people still said, I'm not sure, then we're good. We didn't kill anybody. But if he gets found guilty, then I think this may be the turn of a standard where we start seeing officers who are willing to testify. Maybe the blue wall of silence is not going to go away, but maybe it comes down a little bit. And that's why we have to be vigilant. I just don't understand these cases where in the midst of all of the volatility that we have going on, because everybody's on edge about what's going to happen, how do you make a mistake like this? If it is a mistake, how do you make a mistake like this right now? I don't think it's a mistake either, though.
I mean, how many places burned? How many cities have burned? I mean, how many officers have been involved in hairy things in the last 12 months? How much fire has anything that happens now? You got to be pro. Like, do you remember following George Floyd? Do you remember the case here in Atlanta at the Wendy's? Right.
Yep.
Do you see how fast that the mayor and the police chief acted in that situation? You know why they did that? Because they realized the climate that we're in. You don't need to be patrolling streets. You making it hot for people out there who really are doing their job to the best of their ability.
It's
a sad. I've always said that the military and the police are a microcosm of the communities that we live in. If you got racist, bigots, haters, whatever the case is in your community, you're gonna have those same people on forces. It's this.
That's true.
I don't understand it. I've literally tried to wrap my mind like, okay, I've pulled my gun out of my holster so many times, and I was told to do this by the senior officers. When I would walk into the precinct when I first started, they was like, all right, draw. It is draw. I'm not even going this way. I'm not going by no other place other than here. It should be second nature to go here and come back here, because that second nature is what's gonna save you. So there's no mistake of.
I got you.
The standard has always been, this is what we were told. Okay, when it comes to you doing your job and you have to execute deadly force, this is going to be the standard of judgment. Would a reasonably sound officer do the same thing in your position? So I'm thinking about myself. I'm reasonable. I'm sound. If I'm put in this situation, do I think that I'm going to mistake my taser for my pistol? That's what somebody doing if they believe this.
Well, that said, take their freedom for the duration of their life and take their money, fines until that starts happening. Then outside of that, what is an actionable idea?
I'm with it.
Do you think that would be enough?
I'm curious about that. Is she talking about from the perspective of Brother Wright, or is she talking about from the perspective of the officer? Because Brother Wright, the whole issue is that there was a fine issue that they were trying to pursue him for.
I think she's talking about the officer.
Okay.
Yeah, she's talking about the officer. Yeah. So will you think that would be enough? You know, like, do you feel like and Dwayne, our actual cop, like in being in the police, do you feel like any of your actions are a warrant taking a risk? You know what I'm saying? Like doing something outside, or even if there are, you watch those TV shows when there's that dude's a criminal. I just have nothing on him, like, but if I bust a cap in him, I don't have to deal with him any longer. Is it, like what warrants, are there enough fines, or do you feel like there's enough discipline to really?
I think that the answer to everything you're asking is yes. Okay. And here's the thing. If I know that my actions could lead to me not having a job, not being able to support my family, being in jail myself,
right,
which is a horrible place for a cop to be.
Right, I could imagine.
Horrible place especially in these days and times, right?
Right.
If I know that jail is real, if I cross the line, if I know that, and right now I don't think cops really know that, because name one, I'll wait. I'm gonna name a couple. I'm gonna name a couple names, and you tell me if they still walking the streets.
Right.
Alton. Right. Sterling. The cops free. Tamir Rice.
Right.
No jail. Sandra Bland. Let's go back that far.
Right.
Michael Brown.
Right.
Crawford.
Right.
Breonna.
Right.
Nobody's in jail.
Right.
So if I'm a cop and I got screws loose up here, or I just don't like you because your skin is darker than mine. Right. And there's no chance of me thinking that if I get rid of you in something that I can make up a story that I thought this, I felt that.
Right.
There's no repercussions for me doing it. I'm still likely to do it.
Mm.
You put me in jail. Not only is that making a statement for me, but the next person, oh, well, the other 4 people got away, but they got John, bro.
Right.
Hey, buddy, I'm telling you, John is going downtown. John going to Sing Sing.
Right.
Let that happen.
Right.
Look, can you imagine David Duke being put on 63rd and MLK? Pastor McCory, can you imagine David Duke chilling on 63rd and MLK? I know you just got in the room, so I just want to bring you in. It's not going to happen, right? It's probably not going to happen, and that's the thing. That punishment isn't real until somebody's eating that punishment,
Right.
And that's the problem. I think a lot of police officers do the right thing every single day. I think it's a large percent, but they're not the issue. Just like me being a good cop, I wasn't the issue. The issue was that 5 to 15% that really just don't give a crap, who will do whatever, whenever, because they know that if I do this, I'm probably gonna get slapped on the wrist. I might get suspended for 2 weeks. I might miss some pay, but I'm still gonna put my knee on somebody's back. I'm still gonna shoot somebody over a taser.
Right.
And here's the reality of it, and I'm because I know my answer was a little wrong. There's a female who got killed in Tennessee by a black female who got killed in Tennessee by a white officer. This white officer did every single thing right and went extra about what he was doing. Okay. He allowed her to go back into her vehicle multiple times, including getting a cigarette, then to get a lighter. Right. Even after he found marijuana and what he believed to be cocaine in her purse. When he goes to arrest her, she runs around the car and he still doesn't pull his gun out, right? She gets in the car, starts the car up, he pulls out his taser, he tases her. She then grabs a gun. She puts the gun at her. He's like, man, put the gun down, still telling her to put the gun down when she fires 2 shots, and then he returns fire. She ends up crashing out, dying down the street because she left the scene anyway.
Right.
What happens when you see something happen to a cop that's done wrong is this, or if you got conscious in this time, in this era, sometimes it will affect how you do your job. And I think that that white cop that killed the black female in Tennessee, his time and everything else was affected because of him. I think it was his conscience. I can't be the next person on TV killing somebody, killing an unarmed black. This person wasn't unarmed, but there's a Georgia trooper who got reprimanded the week prior to his death for excessive force.
Wow.
He pulls over a Vietnam vet who had some mental issues that were never resolved. And he tells the cop, I'm going to my truck, I'm getting my gun, and I'm going to kill you.
Right.
And the cop still is, sir, stop. Hand on the hip, still hadn't even removed the gun from the holster. Sir, get out the truck, get out the truck, get out the truck. Guy pulls out a AR-15, M16, shoots the cop 8 times, and the cop never pulled his weapon. Wow. So if there's a threat, there's repercussions for your actions.
Right.
If it's a real threat, then people will start acting accordingly.
Wow. All right. Before we continue on, just a real quick break. Solomon's Temple Christian Ministries with this brother right here, Pastor Brian McCory, will be coming on tonight at 7:00. So make sure you guys check it out. Hang tight. So make sure you check out Solomon's Temple Christian Ministries tonight at 7 p.m.
Sounded like a TV promo to the movie. Make sure you check out the next episode.
The next episode.
And if you do check it out, Pastor's going to be like, you get a word.
Right? You get a word. Find out what happens in 3 days. Right? Does he get up? Does he get up? Is the promise fulfilled? Okay, let's stop. All right. So we are discussing the many cases that are going on. Primarily the Derek chauvinistic case with Jay was kind of giving the snap.
Did you say Derek chauvinistic?
So and Dwayne was kind of breaking down the cop perspective, which is awesome. This is like one of the moments I'm really super glad he's on the show, because you get a real perspective of someone that's out there and not just because, when you hear about the switch up with the taser and the gun, you looking like, don't they look as big and yellow? All of them are big and yellow. Like, can't you just see, I could get like pulling it like, oh no, that's the wrong gun. Right. So, and you would think the weight would be different. Like one is a little more heavier than, that's my mind. But I'm like, I'm not a cop. I've never been there, never been that kind of situation. So it's awesome to have.
So what was Dwayne's response to that? Are you saying that they do feel the same? Are you saying that the adrenaline flow causes you to mistake one for the other?
I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's an extremely hard thing to mistake. Number one.
Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, because I was about to block you.
I want to make sure the conversation is going where he thought. Like, let's be clear.
I want to make sure we was with one accord, brother. I didn't mean to say that like that. With all the training and everything. Right, so I don't want to reiterate anything that y'all have already talked about in my tardiness, but I'm definitely on the bandwagon of there's entirely too much training. You're supposed to be the expert.
Right.
All the training with putting the taser on one side and the weapon on the other side.
Right.
You know, all that stuff. And what I saw, I realize now that's the new excuse. I thought it was my gun.
Right.
I mean, I thought it was my taser.
Right.
Because that's going to be enough. That's going to provide enough reasonable doubt to get cops off.
Reasonable doubt.
But it shouldn't be that for a 26-year veteran. You shouldn't even.
It shouldn't. No, I agree with you. But you heard the chief say she thought.
Yeah, when the chief said that,
that was a wrap for me. That was a wrap for me.
Here's the thing. What Jay said earlier. What he said was the absolute ugly truth. Minnesota is the new Mississippi when it seems like when it comes to these cop murders.
Right.
Like if you take away Minnesota out of the equation, like a lot of protests wouldn't have happened in the last couple years.
Yeah, but I think that what you're seeing is a boiling over.
But I think I guess what I was trying to say is it's become the norm.
Yeah,
and it's accepted. The same way when the police chief here in Cherokee County doubled down and defended his sheriff officer for saying that the suspect had a bad day when he just went out and killed 7-8 people.
Right.
And he didn't come out swinging at that captain who good and well knew better to make that comment. It was because it was accepted in that police force and they were okay with each other. What we're seeing in Minnesota right now is another police chief / sheriff who's okay with the renegade action of their people because they hold it near and dear too, and they feel the same way. I don't know
but I also think.
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish your point, man. I apologize.
I was just gonna say I don't know if I could be a police chief or anything in one of these situations. Just knowing the situation, the climate, and be able to utter that. Oh yeah, I believe that she. No, if I believed her, well, we're gonna have an internal investigation and we'll let that speak for itself. I'm not gonna give my opinions. Let me
say this. I had a debate with a guy once because I was on a golf course and I said my church. That's at my church. Mm-hmm. And they said, see, that's what I'm talking about. See, all y'all preachers, you think you own the church. You think it's your church. It's God's church. And I'm like, when I sat in the pew, I called it my church.
Right.
If it's the church that I attend, it's my church.
Right.
That's not a stake of ownership, but the reality is I do feel some level of investment, some level of ownership because it's where my praise and my worship is. It is mine. Right. And I thought about that. And I think about what you just said, Dwayne. And the reality is, even as a leader, when I talk to the people in our congregation, I do say, be careful how you conduct yourself.
Right.
Because when people see you, they're going to see me.
Mm-hmm.
You are an extension of the spirit that I carry, or you're supposed to be. So don't get out there and put a stain on my name by putting a stain on your church.
Right.
That's real. Okay. And that's how I feel. I don't want there to be any people from Solomon's Temple out here clowning. And then someone say, oh, that's one of them Solomon's Temple folks.
Right.
You understand? Because they'll use that against the entire organization.
Right.
You can't tell me that a police chief or a desk sergeant or, whoever the shift leader, shift commander is, can't stand at the morning briefing or evening briefing and say, if you get out here and act a fool,
right?
If you get out here and let your internal racist ticker cause you to do something that brings a bad reflection on this unit, I'm going to hang you out to dry.
Right.
I'm not with you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, Dwayne, it's very easy to mitigate some of these things. It's how the leaders speak to the officers before they leave, before they go out on shift.
Right.
So if there was more of that taking place, I don't think we would have as much of a problem as we have. The problem is that that's not the conversation in a lot of cases. It's just go do your job. I'll see you next shift. Right. And that's the thing. So how do we begin to mitigate this? It still begins and ends with leadership. The police chief stood up in front of everybody and essentially became a defense attorney and said, I believe she made a mistake.
Right.
I believe she thought it was her. And I'm saying 26-year veteran, I don't believe that.
Right.
And I don't think it's the position of the police chief to state either way.
Right.
I think he broke the law. Because he went, they say, oh no, we don't want this. What do they call it when you the public trial? What do they call it? When you put all the information out there for the public to decide, and they're concerned that you won't get a fair trial. What do they call it?
Court of public opinion. Yeah.
The court of public opinion. So what he has done is he has cast a broad message.
Right.
And so now you've already inserted this seed of doubt because now everybody's thinking, oh, poor girl, she just made a mistake. No, a 26-year veteran didn't make a mistake. A 26-year veteran is supposed to know. You're a professional. You're a specialist in this. So I don't believe that. I'm sorry. That's just me. But I still believe that this has to go before a court. It's got to go before a judge. It's got to go before a jury if it even gets that far. But I'm saying I don't expect it to get that far because of what the police chief just said.
Right. So
that sends a broader message to me than anything.
Just a side note, Pastor brought up the chief of police. So I want you to consider your voting. So you wonder, what can I do when it comes time for the chief to run for office? And what I've realized, because, really paying attention to now the voting time, a lot of times the chief of police are off cycle. And I truly believe that's how a lot of chief police stay in office so long. You like, I need to get rid of this guy. When is the time to vote for him?
No, that's the mayor you want to focus on.
The mayor appoints the police chief.
But
a sheriff is elected, but the police chief
is sheriff. Sorry about that guy. Yeah. But let's go up to the mayor. Yes, question him or her.
That's the
sheriff is elected. Yeah,
right. Whoever they're selecting, and let them know if you want to keep this job, you need to change that dude. So we have to make our voice clear. Go ahead.
And I think this is a good segue into the Chauvin case, because what you see is the police chief, who happens to be black, testifying against Officer Chauvin and any of the things that Officer Chauvin implemented on the day that he encountered George Floyd. Right. I think Pastor's right. I think it starts at the top. So what message does the leadership send out to the officers who are working underneath their guidance? Do they send a message of, I'm going to have your back regardless of what happens, which sounds like is what they're doing in this case? Or is it a message more so like the Chauvin case, where they say, no, we're not going to tolerate standards being broken. And not only will we not tolerate it, but we are going to actively come and break the blue wall of silence ourselves and come to court and testify against you.
Right.
Pastor, one of the things we talked about earlier, I was saying that, I've seen a lot of cases in my day, but this is the first murder case I've seen with hours of video footage from every angle you can find, 9 eyewitnesses, medical examiners, EMTs, officers testifying against this officer. Right. If there was a case for somebody to get convicted of murder, this is it. But the fact that Officer Chauvin can come to court every day and doodle in his pad with no care in the world lets you know how strong he knows, because he knows the track record. Not a lot of police officers, particularly white police officers, are going to be found guilty. Right. So he's playing the card, and all he needs is one juror to say, I don't think so.
Right.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how this case pans out, what the disposition is for the case. But I think you already had gasoline everywhere with people watching this trial, or even folks in our community who didn't want to watch the trial because it triggers so many images. To add another shooting on top of that is, I don't know how people in Minneapolis right now, or Minnesota in general, I don't know how they can feel comfortable at this point. It's like you're just being blatantly disrespected.
My position. So here's the thing. There's two ways of looking at it, and I completely agree with you with regards to Officer Chauvin. But I would also say that in another world, another perspective, not another world, another perspective is in so many factions, he's a hero. Mm. He has bragging rights. I got one and I was able to do it on national TV and I made them watch him die. So what does he look like to white supremacists? He looks like a god. He looks like a king. That is where I think his confidence comes from. Because outside of the death penalty, what's going to happen to him in prison?
He gonna be somebody female dog.
Oh, really? 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 You think that that's what he'll be when we already know that there are active right-wing or white supremacists in the police force who look for opportunity to kill black people? So you think that those become somebody's female dog in prison?
I believe that if he goes to prison,
really,
I believe that he's not going to have it easy.
You really? Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. If you're a white supremacist and you know that the police force is maybe if it's not dominated by white supremacists, there's a good 40% of them in there, knowing that at some point they may get caught doing damage to a minority. Those people are kings. How are you going to tell me that a right-wing group in prison is not going to accept someone like that?
I'm not saying he won't be accepted. I'm just saying he's going to perpetually have a target on him.
Yeah, he's going to have a target on him by other people, but he's going to be protected by his own.
No, I give you that. No, I'm not disagreeing with that. I agree with that.
So the next question is, how dangerous do you think it's going to be for him if the prison is controlled by white supremacists?
Depends on which prison he's at.
Exactly. So how much say do you think he'll have in what prison he goes to?
I got you. I get what you're saying.
I'm a cop. I'm a former cop. You can't send me here. It's a death penalty. I see you.
No, he's not going to have to say anything because there are enough people in high position that can direct him where they're more comfortable with him going. Because he's a cop, he's going to get special protection because they know the cops have targets on their back. So they're going to put him somewhere. And all I'm saying is, I was speaking back to, Lord have mercy, Hamilton's point, right? About when I call you Hamilton, I think you're on Broadway. I'm waiting for you to break out in a song or whatever. So that's the point. That I think that's where the confidence comes from. Right. Like even if I'm guilty, they can't get me.
Right.
You know.
No, I feel you.
So quick question. So we'll let ask a question. To your knowledge, is a typical protocol for them to put her on paid administrative leave? It sounds like they're looking to clear her. And then
that's a thing that changes from department to department based on their policy, but you see it a lot simply because just like anybody else supposed to receive this, you're innocent until proven guilty. So if you truly haven't done something or there's mitigating circumstances surrounding the incident, they have to do the investigation. So they don't want to take from you and punish you for something that you may not. And I'm not saying that she is one of these people, but they put you in a position where, okay, we're going to sit you over here because if you get involved in anything, now everything you get involved in is questioned. You pull somebody over and you find crack in the car. We're going to go back and did you really find crack? So it creates too many problems. So they got to take you out of the equation. And they generally pay you because you still haven't been found guilty yet. So it's
Gotcha.
kind of it's normal, but
Right.
it's department to department, agency to agency.
Right. Cole also, he said, here's the thing: racism is not new thing in Minneapolis. Redlining is a huge problem there and has been for almost a century. The city placed I-94 in the middle of a thriving neighborhood in the 50s to purposely stifle their come up. It's a fertile racist land, but it's bubbling under the surface, literally until May of last year. Sean Rollins said that is called taking accountability and responsibility. Cole also said mayor appoints police chief. Yeah, either go to the mayor or vote him out. Yes, indeed. Rollins said from the leader to the janitor should feel accountability and responsibility as respect to a being part of a whole unit.
See, that's a Solomon Temple person right there.
Right. Sam said she was 26-year veteran who was overzealous from beginning. She wasn't even the officer who pulled them over. The two officers pulled them over, didn't even have their weapons drawn. She was out of pocket from the beginning. Cole also said, sounds like she was policing scared. Far too many men and women are doing these days. And what should Chauvin do? Floyd didn't cooperate. He was being stubborn. He didn't comply. Chauvin to restrain Floyd by any means necessary. Right.
Chauvin wasn't the first one on the scene either, was he?
I don't think so.
No, this is the funny part.
No, I think he came later.
They showed the interaction of George Floyd at the very beginning when he was still sitting in the car. And when he's sitting in the car, there was no like, hey, can you step out? I want to talk to you. It was a gun in his face. And he starts freaking out because he had been shot accidentally by police before. So he says, I've been shot before. This is, making me nervous, blah, blah, blah. They took that as he's being frantic. He must be high on something. But we don't know. We have no idea. I can imagine the PTSD that comes in if you turn to the side and there's a gun in your face and it's an officer, right? And you've already been through that. So that's how they initially encountered him before all of this stuff even happened. The second part of this, and I know we don't emphasize this enough, we don't talk about mental health issues that often, particularly as it relates to the Black community. But he always was compliant. When they walked him across the street, he was compliant. The issue came in that they tried to put him in the police car, and he told them that he was claustrophobic. So he says, I'm claustrophobic. Please don't put me in the car. I'll lay on the ground. I'll stand against the wall. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Don't put me in the car. They put him in the car anyway. He said, well, please just don't close the door. Right. And they went, and there was a group of officers with Chauvin who went on the right side of the car. And then there were two officers on the left side. And I can't tell, they're trying to paint it out as he started getting combative, but it looks more like the people on the left side were trying to push him in so they could close the door. And the people on the right side were trying to pull him through, but he's freaking out because he's claustrophobic. So they pull him out the car. Once they get him out the car, they lay him on the ground. He's laid on the ground. At that point, from the angles that I've seen, you don't see resistance. Like, you see him on the ground, handcuffed. He is trying to turn so he can breathe a little bit, but that's when you just see Derek Chauvin, D on deck, and that's it for the rest of the time. So everybody who sees this is walking in as he's being pulled out of the car, and they're telling the officer, get your knee off his neck, get your knee off his neck. So again, my point remains, if there was a case to convict, right? I don't know how many times, like, usually with murder cases, you don't see the actual murder, right? Right. 9 people. You usually see circumstantial evidence, and you have to paint a tapestry of how this works, right? There's a murder weapon or a bloody glove found at your house, right? Like, that's something they got to do it. But it doesn't work. In this case, you got kids, because it just so happened that there was a bus stop right there that the kids were going to the bus stop, and there's a store that was very popular that people were going to. So it's passersby going to the store, it's a gas station clerk from across the street, it's kids, one as young as 9 years old, who are seeing this, and they're all saying, look, man, you need to take your knee off this guy's neck. And he didn't care. The last thing about it is, I'm big on like imagery, and I feel like every time I saw Officer Chauvin with his knee on the neck, I just kept thinking about when people were getting on Colin Kaepernick for taking the knee during the anthem, and the look on his face about, like, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you're saying, I don't care who sees me, I don't care what's going on, I'm the officer, I run things here, and you are going to do what I tell you to do. It just struck me as a power trip, to further emphasize to the community, largely the eyewitnesses who were Black, that you need to fall in line and understand I'm gonna do what I want to do. So I don't think there should be any problem proving malice. I don't think there should be any problem proving a killing. Right. But the issue is there's going to be at least one person on that jury who's going to say,
reasonable doubt.
I don't know. So we're hoping that person can be convinced.
Well, you'll know that person when they come out and you finally see who the jurors are, because it'll be the one person with a big red slap mark on their face. So every other juror was able to slap them.
Real quick. Tonight, also at 8:30, will be the Sisters of Legacy. Tonight they'll be talking about health and wellness. So make sure you ladies and everyone else check them out. We'll be right back. Yeah, so tonight, 8:30, check out the Sisters of Legacy. If you're following the Brothers of Legacy, you'll get notification about that as well. Oh, yeah. So we appreciate you guys rocking and hanging with us. Yes, I know. I just remembered. Yes, Sam, I know. She got a new logo. I totally forgot to put it up. We approved it.
You're on 2020. Right. She need you to get on 2021.
2021, right? I got the old version. That's the old version.
AD, what is the message to the young man that was just shot, Dante, and his attempt to run, to flee, and getting shot?
You said, what's the message?
Yeah. What's the takeaway from that? Because the reality is, there's still a possibility that he could have ended up shot, but what are the chances that he doesn't get shot if he does not try to flee?
Right.
Because he was essentially almost in handcuffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm saying you can't talk about all of this,
right,
and not talk about that.
Flavor. Yeah, you're right. I agree.
We talk about how she shouldn't have shot him and all that, but
yeah,
what was he doing?
I saw the flee. Okay, so it seems like from the video.
No, it seemed. See, what we're getting ready to do is what the police did. Bottom line is,
he flees.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that's
what are you doing? There's multiple police officers there with the climate that we're operating in.
Yes.
What are you doing trying to snatch yourself away from the police officer while he's trying to put you in handcuffs?
Right. Yep.
So why would you, in this climate,
try to flee?
Give someone a reason
to shoot you.
Right. And you were wrong anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
You're riding dirty.
Right.
So I'm saying, how can I talk about the female officer, and not talk about what led to the incident?
Yeah, I agree.
Because you can't put that kind of power in someone's hands like her, and you never know if you have a her in that environment.
Right.
So the best thing you can do is comply, especially when you know you're wrong.
True. Yes.
Yes. I got to push back a little bit on that.
Come on.
I knew you would.
Come on.
I'm sitting here trying to bask in my
he didn't deserve to die. He didn't deserve to die.
Right.
Okay. There's no justification for what she did, but how do you justify what he did? And you're going to go back to the mental, the emotional and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is, I want to get out alive.
Right.
I don't want to contribute to somebody damaging me.
Right. I mean, I get that. Some say people try to comply and still get it, but
exactly.
I knew that's probably where you're gonna go. But I'm
increase the risk of that happening.
Right. Because that, like, if God forbid, let's just say my son AJ, the same situation. Let's say he didn't die, he got shot in the leg. My thing is like, Dad, she didn't have to shoot me. You didn't have to run. Like, that would have been, I would have been on top of him about that. Like, just comply. Like, I get it. You about to go to jail for some time, but rather you go to jail than die. At least
this is a foggy window for me.
Yeah,
me too.
It's a super foggy window because
it's not foggy.
No, but it is.
What would you no? Because my thing is, if I have a son out there, I'm gonna be like, go to jail and we'll get you. Okay,
but we're talking about But we're talking about this. Let's look at this area that we're talking. So we're not talking about multiple geographic areas.
Okay,
just this area. For Lando, did he not comply in every way, shape, or form in this area? The same area that George Floyd pretty much not complied in this same geographical region. I mean, Wisconsin isn't that far away. And we see the same thing happening in this area repeatedly. I'm not justifying the running by no means. But what I also do know is running isn't a justification of deadly force.
Exactly.
I get that.
What I'm saying is, before the deadly force happened, all I'm saying is this, right? We keep talking about the deadly force. There's nothing that justifies somebody getting killed over a traffic violation or a citation. Okay? Nothing. What I'm saying is, when you know that, why wouldn't listen, I don't want to interact with police. Right. I love the Lord with all my heart. The Bible says obedience is better than sacrifice, but I'm not going to obey the devil.
Right.
Okay. So I got a problem with when you say obedience is, don't tell me to comply if I'm dealing with the devil.
Right.
I got you. All right. I'm going to fight with everything that I am, everything that I have. But in this particular situation, what I'm saying is, where are you going? You got multiple police officers there. You're not going to win that fight.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so let me.
So when they have you out of the car and they're putting cuffs on you, all right, you can say people complied or didn't comply or anything. You can say all of that kind of stuff. You're right. We die whether we comply or not. But what I'm saying is your risk gets increased when you're non-compliant. And so now you have to make a decision.
Right.
Am I going to not comply? And here's my question. Was there hostility on the part of the police officers that you could see that caused him to be resistant?
Okay.
No. So he found an opportunity. He caught them sleeping and tried to run.
Mm-hmm. Let me throw this in there. Then this is a fantasy far-fetched and my story alone. Let's start at the video, the part where it seems like they are dealing with him at the car before they started wrestling with him. Right. If you're doing dirty, right, you know the cops, you know your decent cops, your crooked cops, and say he was in the midst of complying. And let's say, because she's been in the force 26 years, and let's just say she's known for shooting people. Like he been doing dirty for a while, so he knows. Oh gosh, here come Miss Shoot 'em up. Like she's known for shooting suspects right next to them. Just it's far fetched, and he wigs out. He's like, oh man, here she come. I'm jumping in this car. I'm trying to get out of here because I'm not being another victim, just like my man Jerry, that they'll never find out because there was no cameras on us, so I think about it like that. If he was driving dirty, he might have a bad relationship with this cop. I'm with Pastor because at the same time, if there is no story, if there is, try to comply, hopefully get out of this alive instead of intensifying the situation, and yes, him not complying does not warrant him getting shot. And yes, Sam put up, they had his information. They could have found out, picked him up later. They know where he lives. They could have chased him slowly, did an OJ chase, threw some spikes down, caught up to him later. But he should. I agree with Pastor when complying should take place. We don't know what because it seemed like he was until she rolled up and then it got hot. So I don't know what shifted the situation because he seemed like he was up against it. And like you said, it seemed like maybe they were sleeping and he was waiting for the moment. Like, the cop turned away and he whipped his hand.
You want to know what happened? I'm going to tell you what happened because it's one of the Pastor. You remember having a conversation with me and you asked me how long was I a cop? And I said slightly right under 3 years. And you remember what you said to me? That in itself should be a book. 3 years. And you was like, this ain't for me. But tell you what happened. How long she been a cop?
26
years. And this is over some of y'all heads because some of y'all gonna catch exactly what I'm saying. Okay. 26 years, right? Mm-hmm. And you said that there were multiple cops on the scene prior to. If she got 26 years, that means she's got some type of seniority. She's probably a sergeant or a lieutenant, which means she's running shifts, right?
Right.
So she shows up later because she's not doing the patrolling.
Right.
Which means she's not interacting with the people, which means she in many cases don't give to, the rest of it, right? So when she pulls up, do you know why the whole situation changes? Because she brings 26 years of mindset and her way of doing things to the scene. That's why it changes. Now, this is my personal belief. You said 3 years. Wow. I said when I was.
I think you need to go deeper into that because you're not really.
So I did. So I did 3 years as a cop and made the decision that it wasn't for me because the things that I wanted to do, I saw challenges at every single turn. Right.
Okay.
And I said that I am doing less change than I remotely anticipated.
Gotcha.
And one of the reasons is when you talk about these things, not saying that every person who's been a cop for a long time is dirty. However, if he does got some blemishes or she got some blemishes, guess who carrying weight and who's not? That new officer that wants to do everything right and treat the people he's interacting with right. This was my mentality when I approached anybody was I could have a bad day. Something horrible could just happen in my life. You don't know that. And when I pull you over, I don't know what's going on in your life. All I do know is I've been pulled over in uniform and I'm like, oh crap, what did I do? And I got a gun and a badge on.
Right.
And if I feel that way, how does the next person feel, right?
Right.
So I know it's a tense situation. You know what a 26-year vet don't do? Care about how you feel, care about what the day is going. And anybody can challenge me on this. This is facts, and I'll stand on this on the Capitol steps on any state. A 26-year veteran don't care about what kind of day you had, don't care. Most of them are jaded. Oh, so you going to your friend's house, or what's your friend name? Where your friend live? Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we don't know nobody like that over here. What you doing over? No, they don't care.
Right.
Because for them, it's X's and O's. And you're just the op.
Right.
If you was on O Block, they be STLE. They be 051. If you was in Jacksonville, they'd be on the west side and you on the east side.
Right.
26 years, for me, when I see 26 years, what I saw initially, and I didn't say it at first, and maybe I'm wrong, Pastor. I hear you when you told me just open my mouth and talk, right? When I saw 26 years, I saw somebody who was set in their ways. I saw somebody who didn't give two craps about the person that they were paid to protect and to serve. I saw somebody who was going to make any excuse in the world to be right, even though they're probably wrong and everybody else know it. But 26 years speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. And this is where we've been, and this is where we are in this country right now. Because you got 26 years, I automatically assume this person knows their job just a little bit better than you do, even though you got the same training and you do things slightly different.
Right,
this is the problem. When you look at the Atlanta at Wendy's, the initial cop, he almost let this guy go. The backup cop or the senior cop, the one with the training for the DUI that had to come in and administer it because the other cop didn't have that under his belt, he came in and made the situation worse. You look at Eric Garner, I can't breathe. It wasn't the initial cop. It was that second cop sent in. And you know what comes in with these second and third backup vehicles most of the time? Somebody who's disconnected from the community, somebody who don't see them every day, and somebody who could give less than two craps about you because I've been doing this for this long. I know trash when I see it. That's the mentality. So when I reach for my gun, which always is straight down on my right side, and I go across my body and I grab a taser and I say, oops, I made a mistake. You are 26 years of lying mistake. That's my piece. I'm good.
No, I love that. I was do y'all know that preacher Michael Todd out of I think it's out of Oklahoma, I think.
Yeah.
Young guy. Real prolific speaker. He was talking about stains on your life. You know, things that you get involved in and it has an impact on you. And he gave this illustration, you know, where he had people surrounded by people, and every person, they had paint on their clothing, wet paint. And each individual represented a season of a person's life or an emotion, anger, disappointment, hurt, whatever the case might be. And he was saying, you know, the illustration was anytime you have an experience with something like this, like disappointment walked up to him and gave him a hug. But when disappointment turned around and walked away, it left a stain, right? Hatred came up and gave him a hug, right? At one point in time, hatred embraced you. Hatred was a part of your life, but you can get past it, right? But sometimes it leaves a stain on you, and you walk around with this stain on you, and it's going to impact how you think, how you move forward, right? Because you haven't been cleansed from it. Addiction came and embraced him, and you know, you may put the substance down, but he says addiction walked away from you, but you don't walk away from it. Everything that you call yourself getting away from, sometimes you go back to it because it's a familiar territory for you. You understand? And so we all have these experiences in life, and these experiences leave an impression. So when you talk about a 26-year veteran, I see it from two sides. One, yes, there's rank, there's seniority, there's all that. The other one is there's frustration and bitterness because you're not a chief of police. After 26 years, you don't have significant rank and you still out here on the beat.
Right.
You understand? Right. And so those are career stains. You know, what mistake did you make in your career that still had you out here responding to traffic citations? 26 years and you responded to a traffic stop.
Right.
You understand? So people are out and you don't know what kind of stains these officers have on them. Right. And the longer they're in the police force, the more stains they have. Right. You know, and to your point, that's why they are desensitized to your situation, because they're more sensitive to where they feel like they should be. And now they have to prove a point.
Right.
You know, and the same thing on the other side, you know, to the young man, to Dante, who tried to run.
Right.
We don't, to Jay Hamilton's point, we don't know the emotional stains that he had. We don't know the history of his interaction with the police force and all of that. What I do know is that he probably would be alive today. Chances are better that he'd be alive than not, based on what we saw. You understand? Right. And so, and I'm not taking anything. We have a problem when it comes to cops and people of darker hue. I mean, that's just the reality, right? But what I'm saying is, I can't speak for him and why he wanted to run. I have to look at that the same way I look at the George Floyd case. Mm-hmm. The George Floyd case, I see stains on Officer Chauvin, right? That put him on trial today.
Right.
I also see stains on George Floyd.
Right.
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 And so now we're dealing with the consequences. So if there's ever any message for anybody out there in this conversation, check your stains. Look at where you are, because we all have a lot to consider about all of this, and it's not going to get any better for anybody until law enforcement checks themselves, but also we have to check ourselves, because I will still tell you that I would rather that young man let them put those handcuffs on him.
Right.
And if they're going to kill you anyway, they're going to kill you, but let them kill you for no reason, instead of you giving them what they would consider to be a justification for doing it.
Yes, indeed.
Because I don't know who was waiting at home for him.
Right.
And that's a point I wanted to get to as well. I feel like if this had happened to any child of anybody on this panel, right, we would say, we want you to be safe. We want you to get home because we can help you. But we have to also realize that most of the people that they are taking in don't have families who's going to be able to come up with bail money to be able to get people out. Khalif Browder went in over a suspicion, right? And they sent him in and he couldn't get out because he couldn't afford the bond, right? So this happens more often than not, where people are put in, they don't have anybody who's going to be able to afford anything. You'll be in jail, and you're in jail for traffic stuff, for citations, whereas you might be, in a cell with people who aren't there for citations, right? So there's consequences there. There's also this concept of discretion when it comes to the officer. So if an officer comes and there's a citation that could be issued in lieu of an arrest, what are the factors that escalate something to an arrestable state, as opposed to saying, look, we're just going to issue another citation. Here's your court date, right? So there are a lot of factors there, and I think everything is always at play. But one of the main things that I agree with Pastor on this, we definitely want our kids coming home for sure. And I think that whatever people need to employ in order to get home, you need to do that. Compliance oftentimes is going to be the better solution or the better option to choose. But I wish I could say compliance was 100% guaranteed. We see, unfortunately, it's not.
Yeah, it's not. All right. So we appreciate you guys rocking and hanging with us. Heavy topic today as we continue on this week, talking about our 13%. Because I say that number over and over because, if you really think about, the fact that we are such a smaller fraction of a larger body that we're dealing with, then you understand the need for us to stick more together and to do more to keep ourselves on the right track, to keep us from being dirty. And I know even in the cleanest moments, we still become, victims of racism. But I just want that number to kind of stick with you. So as you want to fraction off from your brother, your sister, think about it's not many of us. So we need to stick together closer. All right. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you, Jay, for rocking with us, of course.
Thanks for having me.
we gotta get him a commercial up in here, don't we?
Yeah. Let me
right.
Put something together.
Yeah. We'll definitely talk, Jay, because I'm gonna get you going, because if you're in the North Carolina area, if you're in the state, hit my man up if you have any issues. I know he was doing a lot of eviction helps, so if you're going through that, he is definitely the man to call. And any other legal issues, hit him up. If he can't handle it, I'm sure he can hook you up with someone who can. So let him be your conduit. He is a good brother. So reach out to him. Don't look for charity. Look to be a blessing.
I appreciate that.
Listen, brother got bills just like everybody else.
Yes, I do.
You want the stuff that folds, not jingles.
There you go.
You better say it.
Yes. So hit him up. If you're gonna pay somebody, pay somebody who's really on your side. On your side.
AD, can I give you a crazy fact?
Yes.
Before
thank you, Lisa.
Know that major organs make up 14%.
Wow.
Of your body. So you talk about that 13%. How important is that 13%?
Right.
Well, let's see. That could represent the brain, the heart, the liver, the stomach, the lungs. 13. I just had to look it up. I'm a geek sometimes, and I'm like, 13.
Right. And we have been intricate in the development of this country in all facets, like all of it. so it is true that we are major organs, but we become stronger by working together. Let that seep in. All right, guys. So we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow as we continue our 13% conversation and our effect in this country. So we look forward. Make sure you share, tag somebody, inbox them. Mama McCory is always on top of that. I appreciate that for her. And make sure you I'm telling you, we're developing a community here, conversations that are moving our neighborhoods and everywhere else. All right. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Same channel, same place. And like I said, stay part of this community. Boom, boom, boom. Where's it at? So I changed it up a little bit because I'm connecting all of the shows that are connected. Go to connect Legacy Walk to 84576, Legacy Walk to 84, text Legacy Walk to 84576, and stay a part of the community, everything that's happening and all the changes that are going down. All right, guys. See you in the AM. I didn't want to catch that. Good morning. Welcome to another Good morning. What's up, everybody? This episode is brought to you by StreamYard. Whether you're trying to up your production or just go live, StreamYard is the place to be. Go to bit.ly/stream